You're listening to the Doctor Is In podcast, brought to you by MartinClinic.com. During the episode, the doctors share a lot of information. As awesome as the info may be, it is not intended to diagnose, cure, treat, or prevent any disease. It's strictly for informational purposes.
Well, good morning. I just want to talk to you about visceral fat. Just do a little bit of teaching on this. I was reading a study that just sort of caught my eye, and I wanted to share it with you on visceral fat. So what is visceral fat? We'll go over all that. What is visceral fat? Visceral fat is a sort of a hidden fat. They used to call it a brown fat. And visceral means it's around your organs. And this is a much different fat. So, like if you got fat around your waist, and you can see it, fat on your hips or whatever, right? You can see that fat. Well, you might not particularly like it, but it's a different fat altogether, okay? Because visceral fat that is around your organ, fat that's especially around your liver, it's called visceral fat. It's much more dangerous. And the reason is because that fat that is around your organs, you can be skinny and yet have fat around your organs. See, a lot of people don't realize that. Well, doc, I'm skinny. How come my triglycerides are so high? Why do I have bad HDL? Or why do I have fatty liver and I'm skinny? I'm not obese. Well, some people don't have much of a capacity to store fat, and yet they can make visceral fat. So visceral fat, again, is that fat that is around the organs. It's very dangerous because it acts as an organ in itself. It releases one thing that we know, and I'll just take you to a study that I was reading most recently, is that visceral fat releases cytokines, which are inflammatory markers in the body. They create inflammation. You don't see it. It can be very silent. You might not have any symptoms at all. And yet, this can be a very dangerous fat. The study said, just came out, visceral fat sends signals to the brain that affect your hippocampus, the memory center in your brain, and actually decreases your capacity for your memory. So imagine visceral fat that's a long ways away from your brain. I mean, there's good fat and bad fat. Your body is made up of fat. Your body is made up of cholesterol. That's not bad fat. That's actually good fat. But visceral fat that's around the organs, is very dangerous because it releases signals that create inflammation in the body. And inflammation over a period of time, inflammation is like your body's ambulance response. The problem is, if you don't have an infection, you want inflammation if you have an infection, because you're going to bring extra protein, extra enzymes, extra whatever that start to kill the bacteria or viruses. But if it's a silent inflammation, it destroys your blood vessels. And it sends the wrong signal to your brain that actually affects your memory. So a lot of people, they can be very skinny and have visceral fat in their liver, and they get fatty liver. Non-alcoholic fatty liver is an epidemic today. And remember where it comes from. Visceral fat doesn't come from eating fat. When you eat fat, it's not converted to fat in your body. It's not stored as fat in your body. But sugar is stored as fat in your body. See, the world got it upside down. They never had it right. And ever since the days of a certain researcher, Ansel Keys, I always said Ansel Keys, who was a researcher in the 1950s. And he actually became famous. He was on the cover of Life magazine and that, because he was the one that started the whole cholesterol hoax. He wasn't right. He was wrong. And ever since then, we've been cutting back on our fats in our diet and, don't eat red meat and don't eat too much butter and don't eat too much cheese and don't eat too much steak, but rather have our crappy cereals. Ansel Keys was the guy who started all that. I remember in nutrition studying this guy, and he was wrong, 100%. But the whole industry, the food industry and the pharmaceutical industry went after it. And ever since then, well, what are they saying today? That by the year 2030, 50% of the population will be obese. But I'm not even talking about that, because a lot of skinny people are not healthy people because of the fat that they don't see inside their body, especially around their liver. And this is why I love the reset, because the reset, what it does is it gets rid of, because I get a lot of, especially women, they're very frustrated. I had one yesterday that mentioned online that she only lost in 4 weeks 11 pounds. And, women, first of all, it's never easy for women to lose weight, rarely is, compared to a man. But that ought not to be your goal, because even though, listen, I understand all that about weight loss and all this. Listen, I understand all that. But when you are doing the reset, you literally are losing visceral fat. That dangerous fat is coming out of your body. You're emptying your liver of that fat and the surrounding visceral fat. Now, you might not see it on the scale as much as you will see it in inches, but you're getting rid of that dangerous fat, which is an organ unto itself and is a very, very dangerous fat that releases cytokines and inflammatory markers, which is very, very dangerous for your blood vessels. It damages your cells and your blood vessels. It creates havoc in your body. So this is one of the things with the resets. In 4 weeks, you will get rid of visceral fat. It's incredible. Never mind other fat, but the visceral fat is the one that leaves the body first on the reset. This is why I'm so keen on doing exactly that. Okay? So this is just a little teaching this morning on the importance of visceral fat and getting rid of that brown fat. They call it brown fat inside the body. It's the invisible fat that you don't even see that comes out of the body once you lower your carbohydrates and do the reset. And this is one of the reasons that we do it. Okay? So I just want to do a little teaching. Talk to you soon.
You've reached the end of another Doctor is In podcast with your hosts, Dr. Martin Jr. and Sr. Be sure to catch our next episode, and thanks for listening.